You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
Welcome to Veteran Voices. This is Al Byrne.
And Mike Krawitz.
We're a program featuring U.S. military veterans. What we'll do is interview people that are knowledgeable about cannabis and all of its ramifications, medical, legal, and we have one of those folks today. He's been a good friend of mine. We've talked a lot about cannabis over the last couple of years. He's writing the book, and the book's out. The book is called Brave New Weed, sort of a takeoff, I guess, Joe, on Brave New World. Please meet Joe Dolce, folks.
Thank you, Al. Nice to be here.
Before we get into your book, please, if you could give the folks out there a background, where you're from, where'd you go to school?
I'll tell you everything. So I'm born in New Jersey. I went to school at Northwestern, and I have a master's degree from New York University. I worked in mostly magazine publishing for 30 years. I was the editor-in-chief of Details magazine on the high end, and on the low end, I was the editor-in-chief of Star magazine for a few years also. And I stopped being a magazine editor and started exploring this topic a few years ago. Frankly, a cousin of mine started growing. I hadn't really smoked in about 15 years. I had stopped. It was too powerful and strong for me. He was growing, and he gave me something called Super Lemon Haze to try. And I did. And I had a beautiful experience with it. My mind felt like it was on jazz. It was exciting and sort of everything I had wanted from cannabis, but didn't know how to get anymore. And I started exploring. And one day I was having lunch with my lawyer, who was a very smart gentleman in his 70s. And I was telling him about this, and he said, damn it, Joe, I've been supporting NORML for my whole life, and there's so much going on in the world of cannabis, and no one's speaking to people like us. No one's speaking to just regular people. This conversation's been hijacked by high times for too many years. You should write a book about this. And I looked at it, and there was lots of contradictory information. I was sort of confused. I didn't know myth from fact. I didn't know what was true and wasn't true anymore. The information is coming from all sorts of sides and angles. And I decided that maybe there is a new world of cannabis that I need to explore. And that's really how I began, Al. And it has been an amazing journey that's taken me halfway around the world into places and into thought processes I never would have expected to go.
Well, I'm glad you went there.
Now,
where did you go?
Well, I went lots of places. I started in Boston, where I interviewed a gentleman named Dr. Lester Grinspoon, who's very well known because he was really the first. He was a Harvard professor, friend of Stephen Jay Gould and Carl Sagan, who really wrote the first reappraisal of cannabis in 1972. It was called Marijuana Reconsidered. And Lester's a very bright guy, and his career was, it wasn't exactly sidetracked, but I would say it set him in all sorts of different directions. People at Harvard were not happy with what he had done at all, interestingly enough. But he was the first guy to really, expose me to the ideas that cannabis is a wellness product, not something that, doesn't harm you as much as alcohol, but could actually be good for you.
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.